1 o'clock. What's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. You got a stacked weekend in sports. First off, if you're a Vols fan, you need to check out number 9 Tennessee taking on LSU at 3 p.m. That's a 2:30 tip or a 3 o'clock tip, 2:30 on the Vol Network. You can listen to that right here on 104.5 The Zone. And after that, you can check out Jacksonville and Kansas City. That game starts at 3:30, but we will join it in progress on 104.5 The Zone. And headlining Saturday night, the New York Giants taking on Philly, the NFC rematch, 7:15 Saturday night. On Sunday, you got Cincinnati taking on Buffalo at 2 o'clock and Dallas taking on San Francisco at 5:30. And you just heard from Ran Carthon. He just had his introductory press conference at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. We'll have some reactions to that on Blaine and Mickey. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
All right, here we go. Friday edition of Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica hanging out with the hitman Blaine Bishop until 3 p.m. A lot to get into. As Blaine, we have heard from new Titans general manager Ran Carthon officially for the first time since taking the job.
Yeah, it was all, yay, everything is hunky-dory, nothing. I don't think anything out of the press conference, except for the excitement for the Titans fans. So now they have a GM. Let's see how the process moves forward after this, and then we'll all be still clapping, or will you be upset on some of the moves and solid cap? So there was no really questions answered. I think the only thing I got out of it that Vrabel was part of the second interview process. He wanted to get to know Vrabel better when they asked him about what are some of his first moves, which was kind of interesting. That shows you what's important to him is about the relationship with him and the coach. And I've always believed this, that to me, there is never, when you get into draft day, everything is already done. As far as my understanding is, as far as when you have disagreement on a player, because here's how you know that. You have a draft board. You have an order. You have orders of each position. Those are agreed on positions. So there is no discussion on if one guy is left there and another guy is number 2. It should always be, well, he's the highest guy on our board. That's the guy we're taking. So unless it's scheme driven and say, well, this guy plays in our scheme probably a little bit better than that guy. So to me, collaboration and naturally was a big word throughout the whole process. And then, he's ready to get to work. So exciting for him for his opportunity. First black GM in the Titans organization. So that's very unique and being special that he is the first. Other than that, I really didn't get anything out of it as far as information-wise, as far as, he can't answer all those questions or any of the questions really at this point in time. Seems like he's not gonna come in and just trying to flip everything on top of it, in the staff room. In the scouting department, which is smart on his part, and get to know and evaluate and see how some are and learn to trust throughout this first year that he's here, get his feet wet. So I think, and New England was a big backdrop in his answers here about learning, scouting, the processes that they use. It's kind of connected, seems like, all across the league, no matter how much you use that same system or not is a little bit different based off your team and your structure and your belief of your head coach of how they want to run their team and schemes that they run. So, yeah, that's about it, which was, it's still a lot, but it's still exciting at this point in time. So I think it's going to be, seems like, going to be a good relationship. And I think those agreements are going to be done before the draft even. And nobody's going to say, nope, this is what we're doing because I say so. Yeah, this is not like talking to your parents there, Lucas.
Well, Ran Carthon Mike Vrabel was talking to Ran Carthon's kids sitting there in the front row. Said, don't worry, after this, we'll go run around in the bubble a little bit. It was cool to see his family out there. Yeah. Collaboration. If you were playing a drinking game, based on that
drinking
word.
Game. You were right. Yeah, you young bucks drinking game. Man.
On that word alone, Robert, you wouldn't have made it to the start of this show. So if you're here, we thank you.
Speak for yourself, man. I'd have been in here. I could take 3 shots right now. It's Friday, man.
I know it is Friday, so don't make fun of me. I'm getting shots of this green juice here, this kale juice here.
No surprise, though, that word heavy emphasis on that word.
It was. And it's kind of interesting. You want to know how much he used that word or some form of that word in his answers in the interview process. Because I'm sure they ask, how do you work with the head coach on making a decision and things, especially when you disagree. So that's when it's always going to come up. So I'm sure throughout his experiences, and it's probably done a lot, different at some point at every location he's been, a little bit different depending on who was the pecking order in command. So I think they got, I'm going to call him a team player, but ultimately he's, trying to get guys that fit the schema system that Vrabel wants to run, and Vrabel then is going to probably pretty much agree with all the players that he likes, and I'm sure they're going to disagree to a certain extent, but those issues will be done before. So, it was cool to see it all go down like that. And I'd never seen a video, by the way, that the Titans put out. Was it earlier today, or was it
yesterday? Yeah, when he's introduced into the facility, and basically everyone that works for the Tennessee Titans is there waiting for him.
Yeah, I thought you were going to walk right behind him or something. That's when they were clapping there. So that was good to see and kind of pub up the new facility there just on walking in. It's like walking into your house. You want the dramatic entrance, with the high ceilings and all that when you walking into your house. Well, that's what that looked like at the Titans facility there with all the staff there waiting for them, which was pretty cool. So I had never seen anything like that. And I think that's that Amy touch that is a little bit different than most organizations. So that was pretty cool.
Want to hear your thoughts, your first impressions on new Titans general manager Ran Carthon, 615-737-1045. You can hang out with us on Zone TV, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. Tyler in the YouTube chat says, very positive first impression. I like that he said this team can still be good without completely rebuilding, but the goal is to be great, not good. It's clear that Ran Carthon is still very much in line with the identity of this organization as both Mike Vrabel and Amy Adams Strunk see it.
Yeah, that was there very clear. And he said about running the football, and that's still going to always be the don. I actually disagree with him on that and how he phrased that.
Well, can we, before you go into that, can we hear that quote? Yeah. And we'll kind of get some context on what Ran Carthon was talking about when he was asked. Essentially, the question was, can you still build a winning football team around the running game?
Everybody's able to run the ball. So I think, that you can win championships that way.
How much does your pass?
Yeah, he said you can win championships that way, and that is still true today. But what I can say is where I'm a big proponent of, you must find other ways to beat teams than just running the football. And I think that's where the Titans got in a crux. They couldn't throw the football and be, let's say, pressing the defense in the passing game. You must be able to threaten them. Now, sometimes it could just be a number one wide receiver who's elite. And you have A.J. Brown, right? That's all they had really was the difference between the offense this year and last year as far as skill guys. And the running game was still the same. So I would say there's always – you have to have 2 ways or 3 ways to beat an opponent. And here I can go down the list. Now, they're great quarterbacks, but we're talking about Burrow. Do they run? Yeah, they run, but in the playoffs, you saw them. They threw the lot. They said, we'll throw the sharp passing game to be our running game. Josh Allen, do they run the football? We even name their starting running back. Oh, okay, let's go Mahomes. See, so I can start getting great quarterbacks, but do they have elite running backs or do it? No. They throw the football.
Josh Allen is their best running back.
Right, exactly. Who's a unicorn as far as he's a, running quarterback. Hurts. They run the football. The Eagles do. So there's always 2 or 3 ways to skin a cat. And so I think that's what he was really trying to say. He just didn't say it like that. That's why I said the way he phrased it. Yeah, you still have to run the football or even be a threat as running the football. Even sometimes when you're not getting yardage, 2 or 3 yards or 1 yard, the threat that you're running makes the defense stay honest. Now, you can't be throwing the football 5 yards all the time in a curl route, and I call it a spot route. That's a curl 7 and a flat route. That's a general combination in the NFL. They call it spot route, right? Well, that's not a threat to nobody on defense. So who is a threat? the Titans had no threat. You must be able to throw the football at least to keep the defenses honest. That way they can't always stack the box. And guess what? When you can throw the football, there is no stack box. That's why I said the Titans needed this season to spread it out with the king in there, by the way. Don't take him out. It's third down or passing situation. Spread them out and see how much they want to see the king running downhill with only, 5 guys in the box. Think about that now. Well, so why couldn't you beat them teams that way and still run the football? Because once you spread out and I don't care if you have tight ends out there and you split them out wide, you have receivers out wide. So you got 4 or 5 threats. They can't have 8 men in the box, right? See, so you could have done that. That's a scheme, philosophy, thought process, and to me, that starts with Vrabel. We can bring, blame down and all we want to, but that's a concept everybody has, and then you run downhill. And I'm going to tell you one thing. As a player, former safety, I was not wanting to run downhill and tackle Derrick Henry with a 15-yard head start. That's like, oh, my God, I got to get my mind right to go tackle this dude. We didn't have enough guys in the box. So that's why I say, yeah, you still got to run the football, but there's always ways you can get to running the football, and you still give the illusion of passing the football.
So you would have liked to maybe have heard that caveat from him in that answer.
That's exactly.
But worth noting that
that's
Ran
maybe
Carthon,
a little too deep in an interview like that, too, as well.
But Carthon does come from an organization that has done as good, if not better, a job of that in the league than anybody.
When you think of the 49ers, when you watch them, what do you think right now?
Well, I think about a seventh round rookie at quarterback.
Offensively, what do you think of?
I think of their playmakers, of Deebo Samuel, of George Kittle, of Christian McCaffrey, of what they can do in the passing game, but it's still an offense built around the run that doesn't have the success it has without those playmakers on the outside.
Right, see, exactly, because it won't function correctly if you don't have those passing threats. So, yeah, you can run the football you want to, but if you don't have any passing threats, well, then people are going to say, well, we get in the playoffs. All you can do is run. Good example, when we lost to the Ravens. We couldn't even run the ball. What was that, 2 years ago in the playoffs?
It was the 2020 season where the Titans were putting up astronomical numbers all year on offense. The passing game was as good as it's been in the Mike Vrabel era the year before Arthur Smith went to Atlanta.
They had corners that can match up with us man-to-man.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry limited to 40-something yards in that game against Baltimore.
Right, because why? You're going to start playing elite or better defenses when you get in the playoffs, and they're going to say, to beat the Titans, we're going to just sell out and stop the run because that's what they want to do, and we're going to make sure here's the whole objective of a defense, make you do something that you don't do good. That's it. Or you're not comfortable with doing, or you don't do a lot of it. That's why I always talk about doubling the stud receiver. Make the number 2 and the 3 receiver beat you. Make them beat you. Because the number 1 we know can beat us. That's the reason why he's the number 1. He is elite. He's elite of the elite. So let's make them do something they don't want to do. That's why I say you got to have a couple ways to skin a cat.
Want to hear your thoughts? 615-737-1045. I see the phone lines filling up. We will get to those and tell you, after hearing from Amy Adams-Strunk, Ran Carthon, the new Titans general manager, and head coach Mike Vrabel, the most informative nugget that came out of that press conference about an hour ago, and it had nothing to do with new Titans general manager Ran Carthon. We'll tell you what that is coming up next. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
What you talking about, Willie?
You can bet the NFL playoffs with FanDuel. That's where you can do it, where every play feels like a rush. This weekend, FanDuel giving all customers a no-sweat same-game parlay during the divisional round. Look, it doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel. If you've already got an account, you're going to get free bets back. If your NFL playoff same-game parlay doesn't hit, these same-game parlays let you combine all your favorite bets. Give yourself a shot at an even bigger payday. You could find a bet that you want to make. Here's mine. Giants cover that number versus the Eagles. I don't think Daniel Jones can again rush for that many yards, but I think A.J. Brown will find his way to the end zone. Make a bet you like. You can even ride with thousands of other fans and bet popular same-game parlays that are already made for you. If you're new to FanDuel, just join now, and you can join with the promo code Mickey and see for yourself why it's America's #1 sportsbook. Promo code Mickey. If you've already got a FanDuel account, You're all set to bet. No sweat with the same game parlay. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You'd have to be 21 or older. Present Tennessee 3-leg parlay minimum. $1 bet required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable free bets. Expire 7 days after receipt. Max bonus $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem. Call Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789.
So we just heard from new Titans general manager Ran Carthon for the first time since taking the job earlier this week. And the most informative piece of information to come out of that press conference, in my opinion, Lucas Panzica, Blaine Bishop, Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio joins us in studio. The most informative thing that we heard from it had nothing to do with Ran Carthon. So I want to play this audio, Robert, of Mike Vrabel talking about where he's at in the offensive coordinator search, and then we'll get Rhett Bryan's thoughts on it.
I would say the process is going well. I'm excited with the numerous people that we've been able to meet and interview. That's been the bulk of my time has been doing that since the season ended, and excited where it's at, excited the ideas, and nothing really new to report. But we've had there's some spots that we have to fill.
Numerous conversations with candidates for the offensive coordinator position, Rhett. That just isn't something that we've seen reported yet. All we've seen is interest with names like Matt Nagy, Eric Bieniemy, and Charles London.
While it brings some things to light, it's not surprising to me because when you think about this, a lot of things are let out by agents or whatever through social media. We read it, go, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. There hadn't been a whole lot of that. In fact, there was a question during this general manager search about, well, what about the part where Mike Vrabel was supposed to sit in on the second round of interview? Well, they didn't report any of that, but it still happened. And so that's kind of where when he said that, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they are looking at offensive coordinator candidates and talking to guys. And I'm sure that's been Mike Vrabel's one of his main focuses since the season was over and he released Todd Downing from his duties.
Overall, your thoughts on what we heard from Ran Carthon today?
First impressions are always important, and introductory pressers, I've been to a bunch of them, and, the roses are there, and everything smells and looks great. This guy, Ran Carthon, is a blue-collar worker dude. He came in and addressed all of us in the media room on the second floor of the facility before he went to the podium and said, hey, I know that you all have a job to do. I do as well. Got a lot of things going on, but I want to say hello. I'm sure we'll get to know each other. And it was something I thought was a nice touch that he would put himself out there and kind of introduce himself in a casual way before his big moment. And then the other parts were when Amy Adams Strunk says the search process, he was exactly what we were looking for. We casted a wide net. She thanked Monty Ossenford and Ryan Cowden, especially Ryan Cowden, for what he'd done operationally for the last 6 weeks. But what stood out for her is that he was a former player around the game. Of course, Mo Carthon, his father, played for Bill Parcells, was a coach. But his talent evaluation success, roster building success in multiple organizations. She said that, we realized he was a natural leader and liked how he and Vrabel have kind of hit it off to begin with, and will work with Mike Vrabel to build a championship roster. She said, I still have high expectations, but we have big decisions to make. So even she knows, this is going to go one or a couple of ways in terms of the roster. Now, I understand the media corps asking him, what are you going to do with Ryan Tannehill? And I didn't expect you would get any answers on that today because this is an introductory presser, and he's still just gotten boots on the ground and is, making sure all that, is sorted out in the next few days and weeks. But what I liked was he said, my first job is to get with Mike Vrabel and to work with him in lockstep. He used collaboration several times throughout the press conference as a point of emphasis. He said, I can't go out there and make plays, call plays, whatever, but I need to supply him with the best roster to be able to do his job. And so I want to get to know him. He was a lot about relationships. And even at the Q&A part towards the end, he talked about, I have seen the tape and have a pretty good baseline on what this team is and the roster, and talked about it being tough and physical. He said, but I don't know the people that are on that tape that I've watched. And that's what I've got to do, is get to learn and know these players.
But does that sound abnormal to you? I mean, that sounds normal to me.
Yeah.
Because that tells you a little bit about how they are as players, whether they're smart players, rough around the edge players, what makes them special or why they got to this point. To me, those are all things that you're supposed to be as a GM.
That's right.
Nothing that you said so far to me has been anything different. Speaking to the other employees, if you walk down the hallway and don't speak to people, then that's not the person you want in the building. Hey, trust me, and I've been in the building where people walk right past you.
Not even a nod.
No,
not even a nod.
Like I was actually invisible.
Well, that's never a good feeling.
And, well, there you have it.
There you have it. But I think it was interesting to hear a little bit of his insight on it being his childhood dream to be a general manager, speaking with his wife about it. What do you want to do after football? I want to be a GM. And he talked a lot about his family, had a lot of his family at the press conference today. So it's clear that he is a family guy. I also thought it was interesting that he said, I learned through Thomas Dimitroff and a lot of those folks in Atlanta. And he said, that's out of that New England pipeline. He said, so some of the fundamentals of how it's done comes from that New England system. He said, so there's a lot of commonalities there.
Even with the guys he worked with in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Right.
it kind of seems like all the places he's been kind of use somewhat.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That was kind of interesting. Yeah.
So he, what I took out of that is that was a little bit of an homage to what John Robinson had done and knowing some of the territory of how they navigate that too. Kind of like, when guys change teams as a free agent or whatever and learning how those play calls are called here versus where they were previously.
Did it stick out to you what he said about evaluating players on the quote-unquote healthier side as far as bringing them into the organization, talking about exploring every option on figuring out how to keep guys healthy, but said don't want to bring in injured players. Obviously, a very clear emphasis on that. Something to keep in mind, I guess, as we get closer to the draft and free agency.
Well, and with 177 different guys on the roster the last 2 years, that was a point of emphasis with Mike Vrabel and the ownership group. But, that was something that stood out to me in what he was saying in this press conference and exploring all the options. And I think he had an interesting comment or two about analytics and those things, and I'm sure he will probably implement maybe some more of those things because they use them in San Francisco and they use them here too. It's just what level did they use them? That's what we don't know. I thought the other interesting thing, and this is kind of how I viewed it going into it, knowing that someone would ask this question, but asking about the moment today being named the first Black general manager of franchise history. And he said, it is a huge moment. Many greats have come before him that, have allowed some opportunities to this, but he said, I want to be the best me, not the first Black GM. And I think that's super important in all of this because I don't care if he's green and from Mars, if he helps win world championships, there's the deal. I want him to be the best general manager, the best Ran Carthon he can be, right?
I would have liked for him to add to that and just say, I like to be the best version of me, whatever color I am.
Right.
It doesn't even matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's all he can be. And that's pretty much the way I've been taught. That doesn't even matter. But since it is part of history, that has to be brought up.
It does. It does. And that's what I knew that was going to be a thing. And I thought he handled it well. And listen, as far as the historical part of this, I think it's a great moment. I'm proud for him. I'm excited about it. I would have gone to the press conference, whoever it would have been in terms of being the name, the next general manager. But I was impressed by how he stood there and delivered. And he clearly is about to get to work.
Yeah.
And he's got it cut out for him.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's an impressive, guy. So, I mean, that stood out more than anything else. But now he's got to get to work, and he knows all the clapping and everything else as far as, great for the introduction. But he's got to get to work, and it's got to be quickly. And, by the way, he did say, and he almost went a little too far to me, that this roster basically can still win the way it is. Like, I mean, to a certain extent, he didn't say it like that, but he said,
based on identity.
The identity is going to run the football. I mean, that was
And he
Vrabel's
did
the head
say
coach. That's not going to change.
When you look at the teams that are in the playoffs right now, they are the teams that are still able to run the football.
Okay.
And
so the Chiefs, they run the football? Josh Allen run the football?
I know.
Joe Burrow run the football?
I'm just saying
that
it's a part of the equation, I think is what he was saying there.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
Right.
He should have added to that. You must still be able to, old school football still is a part of this game in running the football, but you have to be able to be multiple in how you beat opponents, because there's going to be a time you're going to run against that opponent. 2 years ago, the Ravens, Titans, right in the playoffs. We couldn't run the football. All right. They had corners to match up with our guys man to man. We actually couldn't throw the football really effectively to be dominant, and that's why we lost the game. So I would have liked him to add to be multiple, not just running the football, but when you playing an opponent, you want to be able to beat them multiple ways in case, guess what, you don't have your A game. Guess what? Well, the quarterback's always got to have his A game, so you got to be able to throw the football. There's going to be times you're going to run, especially in the playoffs, you're going to run into teams you're not going to be able to run the football.
You know, the thing that we don't know today, and I know that there are questions that were asked, but I mean, we don't know his philosophies. I think we are starting to get an idea about what kind of person he is, but we don't know his philosophies. And, you know, I think I mentioned it yesterday with you and Mickey. Look, he's got a baseline on this thing because that's part of the interview process. He came with his portfolio going, here's what I see, here's, you know. Now, that's behind closed doors. We don't know what that is right now. And there'll be things that'll have to be worked out for sure. But yeah, I think it was interesting how he talked about the run game in this. I'll
When you think of the 49ers, what do you think of real quick? When you think of the 49ers today, when you watched them just last weekend, what did you think of when you watched them?
I thought of Brock Purdy.
Right. That is not anything about the running game.
No, that's a seventh round pick who's doing really well.
So you're talking about the quarterback, and Lucas kind of spelled it out though, but it's the running scheme with the right pieces outside. Reed?
That's right.
Samuel, you know, Debo.
Right.
I mean, you got Kittles. I mean, so IU. I mean, so they have players at those positions to make the running game, even though that's the crux of everything. You must be able to throw the football as well.
Well, nobody complements the run with the pass like the San Francisco 49ers
no
do,
doubt.
right?
And that's
right?
what I'm really getting to.
But the run game is integral to their identity, and they have reached another level since making the move for Christian McCaffrey. I think
he's a better player. He's the best they've had at that position.
The most impactful move in the NFL as far as player personnel
but
this
why,
season.
though? Because he
catches
multiple.
the ball out of the backfield.
He is multiple.
Yeah, because Debo Samuel can come in and take handoffs and then split out wide.
And Mike Vrabel brought that up as multiplicity in players going forward. Yeah. He in the Q&A part at the end, he brought that up. Tell you something else that was interesting to me that he brought up was when someone asked him about the offensive line coach and how that search is going, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said that he needs the offensive line coach to work more with the offensive coordinator. I'm like, okay.
Would you say he needs to collaborate?
Yeah, collaborate. Yes, that's the key word of the day. But
I don't understand how that wasn't possible.
Yeah, I haven't wrapped my head around that one yet either. But I'm like,
especially because you're a part of not only the running game but also pass protections.
Yeah.
So maybe that might have been part of the issue.
Maybe.
This is just a guess. We're reading between the lines, just like everything else. We only can go by what we hear.
Speculation. Yes.
615-737-1045 to get your thoughts on Ran Carthon's first ever appearance as the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. So obviously, Mike Vrabel, we got a little more clarity on the timeline, right? On how this all went down from Ran's perspective.
Yes.
The second interview happening on Tuesday, Mike Vrabel being a part of that. Vrabel, to paraphrase, said he spent a few hours with Ran Carthon that felt like 15 minutes.
That was important to me, too. I was like, okay, so there was a level of comfort and conversation there. You look up and it's like, how long have we been talking? It felt like 15 minutes. That's when you feel like you got a connection there. Mm-hmm. And that's, Ran Carthon said, that's when it felt like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Going to be really key moving forward between those two. So you heard from Amy Adams-Strunk, and then Ran Carthon stepped up, and then Vrabel stepped up, and then Ran came back, and then Vrabel came back. So we were there for a while at St. Thomas Sports Park today. I don't remember the last time we had that long of a press conference over there. I mean, was it since maybe Mike Vrabel got hired? Usually an introductory presser for a role.
Something like that. Yeah, they usually don't
Mm.
go the better portion of an hour without it being something like that. Yeah, I would agree that would probably be what that is.
So what's next for these guys? Because Ran Carthon was asked about, okay, you're here, presser's almost over. What's your number one priority? He said it's Mike Vrabel. Said spending time with Mike Vrabel, getting to know the guys in this building, the people in this building is his number one priority. But personnel-wise, with the Senior Bowl coming up and evaluating the current state of the roster, for you, Rhett, what is next for Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel in those conversations?
Well, I think once the Mike Vrabel conversations are brewing and have a lot of them have happened and it will continue to happen, that kind of goes in the same vein of looking at the cap status and seeing where, because I mean that's the thing that's going to have to be worked out. When you think about the timeline, yes, Senior Bowl's in 2 weeks, and you've got combine, pro days, draft, all that stuff. But the new fiscal year and free agency comes before all of that, and you've got to figure all of that part out because technically you're over the cap right now if it's March 18th. So I just feel like that's the other part of this because at the end of the day, guys, it comes down to dollars and cents and whether you're operating under that cap or not. And you heard Amy Adams-Strunk say it. She said, I have high expectations, but there are big decisions to be made. And so there will be big decisions that they will have to make. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's people being moved, traded, cut. I mean, there's roster turnover every year, but that's after the Mike Vrabel conversations and learning all these things. I think that's where it goes next. And someone asked Ran Carthon also about, the scouting department and all that, and that confirmed what I had thought about. He's not going to change anything with any of that because those guys are hip deep in draft preparation right now and evaluating guys. And if he makes changes, that will be a summertime proposition where if he wanted to bring in different folks in that department.
So you wouldn't expect a lot of staff changes, whether that be front office, coaching, anything from here until about summertime?
No, I wouldn't on that front in terms of the scouting and evaluation department part of it. And, of course, we don't know if Ryan Cowden stays in that group. So that may be the one thing that we'll find out. But as far as Rand maybe bringing in his own guys, we'll find out.
Thanks for hanging out, Rhett.
All right.
Yeah,
Went by quick.
Always.
Always does.
Always.
Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio at Rhett B Tennessee on Twitter with us on 104.5 The Zone. So the Ran Carthon era begins with the Tennessee Titans in a very pivotal offseason for the AFC South. We'll talk a little more about the state of this division on the other side. Bill in Nashville has a question for the Hitman, and we want to hear your thoughts. 615-737-1045. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
Wow, it is already that time of year again. We're making resolutions we hopefully can keep, thanks to the folks at Coolray. They make taking care of your home's resolutions easy. Maybe that's to just keep your heat on. That's a pretty important goal, right? Well, Coolray will help you take care of that with a $49 winter tune-up. Or much like how the holidays treat us needing to get back in shape, maybe your home heating system needs a complete revamp too. That's no problem either. Coolray's entering the new year stocked up and already with furnaces on hand ready for the next day installation. Plus, they still boast the lifetime parts and labor warranty on new Carrier home comfort systems, including $0 in repair costs for the life of your system. And if your home truly is good to go, Coolray is even looking out for your personal resolutions too. So browse the Coolray.com/careers page and kickstart your career with their industry-leading benefits and work-life balance. Spots are open for also HVAC service technicians, installers, plumbers, and electricians. So schedule your next visit or browse career opportunities at Coolray.com. No phone call, no wait, no worries. You pick the date and time that works for you. That's Coolray.com. Who are the last? That's what I was trying to Google. I don't know why it came up. It went long-handed. I wanted to see a shorthand, just the list of the last 10 Super
So the Tennessee Titans have just hired a new general manager.
Woo!
The Colts,
Yeah, we pumped.
Indianapolis Colts looking for a head coach. They need a new quarterback.
We're ahead of them.
The Houston Texans looking for a head coach. They're probably going to have a new quarterback.
Yeah.
This is an interesting offseason
Only
for the AFC South.
Watch this. I'm about to bust your bubble. And then the Jags play the
and they're playing in the divisional round.
Eastern, 3:30
Yeah,
Central.
the Jacksonville Jaguars, the model of stability in the AFC South, just like we all predicted.
It has changed now with their head coach and their quarterback getting some coaching.
But seriously, this is a massive offseason for this division. I mean, this division could really this offseason could really lay the groundwork for what the AFC South is going to look like over the course of the next few years.
Yeah.
You're talking about eras beginning. One that's in year 2 in Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars era, and then 3 others around the division that are starting right now with the Titans and Ran Carthon and the Colts and Texans hiring head coaches.
Just think about that. What you just said about Peterson. First year he's in the
Or year
second
1?
round.
Did I say year 2? I said year 2.
It's his first
It's
year.
year 1 of the Doug Peterson era.
First
What am I
year,
talking
he's in the
about?
divisional playoff round. How remarkable. See, that shows you that those picks that they had are maturing and with good coaching. Not just him, but naturally he's the key position with the quarterback. But all around, I mean, so they're going to be the team to beat from this point forward. You got to look at it that way, unfortunately. And now the Titans are not at the bottom of the barrel as far as like rebooting or rebuilding. They're halfway there already. And with smart moves with our new hire at GM and Vrabel and crew, staff, scouting department, they could be there right back there pretty quickly. So that's one thing I wonder, like, how quickly can we fix the offensive line? Can you do it in one off season? Some people say, yeah, you can. Some people say, well, you can maybe get 3 pieces, maybe, the two of the pieces may not be what you want, but they can be satisfactory. But as long as you got 3 pieces of, you got your tackles and you got your center up the gut, then you can get some quality guards that can manage through for the next couple years. So I think that's where it all starts, besides salary cap and naturally the quarterback decision. And he couldn't answer any of those questions. He just got here. So you have to ask him, but he doesn't have the answers, or wasn't going to tell you anyway what he thought. Because there are already opinions of players, even when you're on other teams, whether you're in the scouting department, GM, coach, or what have you. Now, you may want to get proved wrong and see them face-to-face and at practice on a day-to-day basis and how they are mentally as far as players. But you have your opinions coming in. He already knows what he thinks of Tannehill. Rest assured of that. He wasn't going to give us any of those nuggets.
Right. Put it to a poll at Blaine and Mickey on Twitter. Just how hard will it be to fix the Titans offensive line this offseason? Very hard, doable, or a piece of cake? I don't know how many people are going to
Well, we know offensive linemen love to eat, so a piece of cake we thought would be, perfect.
615-737-1045 if you want to give us your thoughts, your first impressions on new Titans general manager Ran Carthon, or you just want to talk to Blaine Bishop, the hitman. Yeah. We're right here for you. Bill in Nashville wants to do just that. Afternoon, Bill.
Hey, guys. How are you? I hope you're having a good Friday afternoon.
Same to you.
Good, man. Appreciate it.
Good. This is kind of a general question for Blaine, or for both of you. In modern-day NFL football, is it possible to build a team when you really, really focus more on the defense than you do anything else? If you just build an all-world defense and your offense is just average, can it compete for a championship, do you think? I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Thanks for the call, Bill.
That is a tough question. I would say in the modern era, in today's time, probably not. We basically got to see it. It just the injuries really kind of hurt the defense here with the Titans. They could have been an elite defense at some point, maybe, close to, top 10 defense in this era. I just don't think you can.
Last team to do it was the Peyton Manning Denver Broncos.
Yeah, with a great defense.
Yeah, where Peyton could barely throw it 30 yards at the end there. A good run game. And
So I would say no. And that's why I always talk about being multiple in your style and and you really have, and that's balancing out your roster, really, and not overspending in certain areas than others. So you try to, every year's a different year, but you try not to. I just think you can't be heavy on one side of the ball. And I kept saying that all season. Everybody was talking about our defense, but one side of the ball can't carry you. And those extra reps, depending on the defense. And guess what? I was part of that. That compounds over the season, and you will not be the same defense you were toward the middle or at the earlier stages of the season. I joke around about like, oh man, hey man, where you going on? Offensive players leaving where we're at halftime. Oh, we're done. They're going in. They're getting in their car. Zoom, zoom. You leaving? We only at halftime, bro. Where you going? And then that starts happening 3 or 4 weeks in a row. You go, well, dang, man, we're playing too many snaps. You playing 80, 90, 100 snaps, and they're only getting like 40.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I don't think we get our money. Hey, defense win championship, offense sells tickets. Well, man, y'all not on the field to be getting paid that kind of money then. The real talk. And this is coming from players inside the building at the time. All jokes aside, you're saying it in context, but at some point, the defense is going to be games regardless of who the opponent is. It's the NFL. There's going to be time. I don't care if you have an elite defense. There's going to be games where you just can't stop them. They're going to come up with a game plan, and you didn't study any of this, and you go, they're not doing anything they showed in film at all. And you're up there making adjustments, then they come back to it. So, the offense then has to carry you, and then it comes a shootout. Those games are going to happen. So that's why you must be able to be a balanced team. And I think they're trying to get there. It's just the offense was behind, especially after the A.J. Brown trade. He kind of leveled things out for the team when they didn't have an elite receiver besides him. So they never got a chance to replace him. And Burks potentially can be that guy, but he got injured a lot, and he showed growth. But you got to have something to level it out, and no one in the league really could stop or contain A.J. Brown when he was healthy, which is kind of weird because I'm gonna go back to this. A.J. Brown, when he was healthy, he stayed healthy this entire season as far as playing in games with the Philadelphia Eagles. He didn't miss a game. I think he missed a game every season he was here, or games, except for his first year, I can recall. So
same goes for Roger Saffold in Buffalo.
Right. See. So is that coinkydink, or is something to that? And meanwhile, we still continue to have those issues here. So I don't know if there's any correlation. All I can say is, man, these guys are bigger, stronger, and faster. Why do they get hurt more? I don't know. If they are bigger, stronger, faster, why are they getting hurt more? They should be better. They doing everything that at least supposedly that can help you, stay healthy as far as practice habits. But I tend that it's the other way around. You practice physical, you end up your body adjusts, and you play physical, and you don't have as many injuries.
Ran Carthon talked about the injury issue at his press conference. He also talked about his number one priority as the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans. We'll circle back to what we heard from the new Titans GM and take your phone calls in hour 2 of Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
Now, listen, we have some exciting news for you. For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know the Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 24 years. And we even have gotten to watch them grow as well. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we are now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn and in the backyard of a single-wide trailer, now growing to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you'll get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair and appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myeurofix.com. But always, and I mean always, tell them Blaine Bishop sent you.
Collaboration. The number 1, 2, and 3 theme from Ran Carthon's introductory press conference as the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans. Lucas Panzica with you, hanging out with the hitman Blaine Bishop until 3 o'clock on 104.5 The Zone. 3HL will take it from there. They will have Ran Carthon, by the way, on at 4:20, his first conversation on this radio station. So Carthon's asked about his number 1 priority as the new general manager of the Tennessee Titans. I want to play this, Blaine, and then get your thoughts on this transition that the franchise is making right now. So let's hear from Ran Carthon on his number 1 priority in his new gig.
I think Mike Vrabel is the top of my to-do list, and us working together and forging a relationship and coming up with our plan on how to build this roster. I think there are a multitude of things that we need to do, that we need to fix and make this organization better. But my number 1 priority is spending more time with Mike Vrabel and learning the systems that are here in place and how I can help improve upon them, and which will help us build a championship team.
We knew that was going to be a heavy theme in this whole situation. The relationship between Vrabel and Carthon, the word collaboration has been used since they let go of John Robinson, every statement from Amy Adams-Strunk. Mm-hmm. So with all of that, what does that tell you about what the situation was previously between John Robinson and Mike Vrabel?
Oh, well, reading between the lines, maybe there was, this may be a strong word. I'm going to say dictator. Do as I say and not what I do, because what I say goes.
And how common is that, though, in the NFL? A GM head coaching relationship?
If they have full power, all of those who have full power. So I think that's why a lot of coaches should definitely have some wiggle room in there in having decisions over the players that they're actually coaching. And I think that's what he was really meaning in what he said there, is that, okay, I need to understand your scheme, your system, understand you as a coach, because as I said earlier, and when you go into on draft day, all those tough decisions are already made, and you have already collaborated with the head coach because you understand the schemes and what players fit better in his schemes and systems, whether it's offense or defense, and you've already set your board based off your collaboration with him and the players that he likes, as well as what you like, and had those discussions. So on draft day, that's already done. So I think that's what he's trying to do, get a better feel for the type of players that he thinks fits in his scheme. As he mentioned, though, that's not in that cut, is I'm not the coach. I'm not training them. I'm not doing it, calling plays. I'm not doing any of those things. So my job actually is to provide him with the best resources of players with his input. And that way we then rise to the top and we will be a championship caliber team. That's what I think he was saying. Not just, and I know there's the overuse of the word collaboration. He used the word a lot today too as well. But I think that's part of who he is, to be honest. And all the places he has been, I think it kind of worked mostly that way. I don't know if it worked that way with the Rams, because I think Leslie had a little more clout than actually Coach Fisher. And I think that's where the rubber met the road there with them. And that's kind of where things didn't go according to the way they wanted to, especially when you start losing. Hey, when you win, even when there's not good, nobody's talking about it. You have no collaboration. But when you lose, then that becomes an issue, because it becomes, well, I wanted that guy, you wanted this guy. Well, those agreements should have been made, and y'all rise together and y'all made your agreements or disagreements before going into the draft. So I think that's who he is. I think that's what he'll try to do. And even if he likes a player better, let's say in preparation up to the draft, and Vrabel likes a player and it's close, but he likes the other guy and it's clear, he may go with the Vrabel guy and say, okay, we'll put him there just above the player I like, but let's see on draft day which one will be available. And then we'll go with the guy that fits your scheme better to make sure that we get the right fit. And that's just like when you're talking about character and all those other intangible things that don't count as far as just talent on the football field. You got to have more than that. And sometimes you got to go outside of that and go outside the box and realize your risk and say it's worth it. And okay, I'm going to use an example. Somebody, I call him rough around the edges. That's somebody who's great talent. Maybe he's not as sharp or could be a little more riskier, maybe off the field, kind of not real coachable, but coachable, little stubborn guy. Let's see what we can do with him once we bring him in here. And some coaches like, nope, I'm straying away. Nah, I kind of got to meet him. I think he's not on the level of problem kid or problem player. It's just more so we must convince them that, hey, this is what you need to do if you want to be successful. And guess what? You want to get paid? This is the way you get done. I guess I bet that guy starts balling. See, so there's different ways to attack every situation. I just think he's more viable for that. And being both of them now former players, they probably speak the same language.
Yeah. And clearly that was a priority for this organization to get someone that
it had to be
that has that viewpoint.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't think Vrabel actually had a lot of say-so over the players of draft picks.
Right.
He may have had some. I can't say none because I'm not there.
Yeah.
But it sure seems like JR had all the power, and I don't think he would ever have traded A.J. Brown based off of what he said in some of his interviews before it even came up that they were going to even trade A.J. Brown. He said, well, it was a national show. He said it
was Rich Eisen. He said, not as long as I'm the head coach.
Right. I mean, he was serious.
When asked if A.J. was on the trade block, which to be fair, I suppose A.J. Brown was never on the quote-unquote trade block, but it got to a point where it was just an untenable situation, and he ultimately got traded. But that did speak to how confident Mike Vrabel was that A.J. Brown would be on this football team in 2023.
Because what would you have said if he actually, there's a part of, if you're Vrabel, that he was, what would you have said? Like, there's always a possibility. And we've kind of had small discussions, but not really.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't have said that statement. You would have said, well,
it's a very definitive statement.
Right, it definitely was. Because you would have said, we would always love to keep great players on our team, but you just never know what you don't know. And no, he did not. And then his reaction on the trade, he got up and like, this is going to hurt. Woo, how are we going to replace this? Basically, that's what his lame body language said.
Right.
So I think it's just going to be working in unison. And I don't even think it's just Vrabel and him. I think that's where it starts because he's at the top with Ran. I think it's with all the people within the organization, but also within the staff of scouting department.
So that's the key, right? It can't just swing the other way where Vrabel has the say and you bring in a general manager that's a yes man for the head coach. Like, I don't think that's what the Titans did here.
No, I don't either.
And Ran Carthon's a guy that a fast rising executive, 41, coming from a team in the 49ers that a lot of franchises apparently want a piece of what they're doing right now. Adam Peters had been requested to be interviewed by the Cardinals. He turned it down. Obviously, that coaching tree has expanded. Ran Carthon seems to me, Blaine, like the type of candidate that didn't just need to jump at the first opportunity that came up.
Well, I think he actually said that. He said this was a good fit. And I'm sure he's interviewed for some other ones and maybe had other opportunities throughout his time. This one seemed fit because of how you're trying to work in unison together. And let's be clear. Head coaches, GMs, there's a lot of ego sitting at that table. And people want to say, I did, you didn't. I picked this guy, you didn't. I don't think he's that kind of guy. That's what I got out of this. I don't care who gets the credit. Guess who gets the credit when we're holding that trophy at the end of the day? That's who gets the credit, and we did it, not no one individual. And if you go in there with that kind of mindset, then it'll be great. I just feel like you're always going to have success when that happens. Now, that's not to say you're going to have not a down year, but it will get right back where it needs to be because certain things happen in seasons, whether you have injuries, issues or not, or maybe you lost your quarterback or something happened. But so I think that's who he is. I think his personality type matches what, and I don't think he's an agree guy either, by the way. I don't think he's a guy I think he's going to stand his stance on his beliefs. That's not to say he won't change his mind and still lean towards Vrabel, but he is definitely going to let you know where he stands on a player or on a situation and that is a better fit. I think that you can only have that, but you also have to be with another ear listening to your coach and saying, this is the guy I want. And you say, okay, we're going to go with your guy. That's cool. But and guess what? That guy's going to be tracking that other player the whole time in the league of what he's doing because he's going to remember that day. I'm like, you see, what's the name doing pretty good, huh? We played him. What'd you think? It's not a side on him. You may have got still a good player.
Yeah.
So I just think he's a guy that's, let's say he works with a plan of a team more so than anything else. And I think that's what they need and that's what they wanted. And they got it. And probably some other candidates were somewhat similar too. That one just stood out maybe in the first interview. It stood out. And, by the way, we all know we've all been in interviews before. You can blow somebody away. That don't mean you were the best candidate. You're just a great interview. Mm-hmm. That we all know. And then sometimes the best candidate is not the best interviewer. interviewer. See, so hopefully we got a little bit of both.
It's funny you bring up big egos sitting at the table. Buck Rising joins us next. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
The NFL playoffs are red hot, and with FanDuel, every play is a rush. New customers, hey, why don't you join today? You can bet the divisional round with $150 in free bets, and it's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You just got to sign up with the promo code Mickey, M-I-C-K-E-Y. Look, I think the Giants can cover this big number this weekend. I like the Giants. What do you like, though? Bet it on America's #1 sportsbook. They've got all your favorite bets there, from money line, point spreads, player props. Maybe you want to take a shot at a same-game parlay for an even bigger payday. You can do it all on an app that's safe, it's secure, and it's super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 back in free bets, win or lose, again, with the promo code Mickey. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You'd have to be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable free bets. It expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem. Call Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789.
We've been talking about egos, general managers, head coaches, how they work together. So let's bring one in. Let's bring one in for ourselves.
Who, Robert?
Buck Rising joins us on 104.5 The Zone. Robert Walsh is the most egoless man I've ever met in my life.
I know. I was just joking.
Love that guy. Hi, Buck.
Give it to me.
You know, that's trash. Everybody's got an ego, Robert included.
That is true. That is true.
He's better at hiding it than maybe I am, but you know what? That just makes me more honest.
Oh, that's how you spun that.
What's one example of radio production great Robert Walsh that you might have that he has an ego?
Well, I'm sure I could think of something at a different time, but I don't necessarily have a litany of issues that I want to address. I have bigger issues with you than I do with Robert. I can do you instead of Robert.
Well, let's do Lucas. What's his ego? You got one?
Well, Lucas is now it's a little more subtle than you might imagine, but just the way that he thinks that everybody needs to hear his every waking thought is a level of entitlement that I simply cannot understand, even as I have a radio show where I try to talk for 3 straight hours each and every day. That's the kind of ego.
Grizzled radio veteran.
Well, he has
Buck
to do
Rising.
that because he's trying to take your gig, right?
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Oh, sure. But, yeah, no, listen, that's strategy. I'm not mad at him for it. I do the same thing.
I did get that is what got me in trouble my entire life in school. It was like you don't have to say everything that's on your mind. So yeah, it's fair. It's fair enough.
You didn't know when to be quiet.
It's working out just fine for both of us. We're okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. I never knew when to be quiet, Blaine. I'm not sure I was ever capable of it. But yeah, we're making it work, Buck. What'd you think today of Ran Carthon's debut with the Nashville media as the new Titans GM?
I mean, it's good to get him finally in front of the media and kind of have him have the opportunity to answer these questions for himself rather than us speculating about what he's going to do and what the first move is going to be and what his priorities are. I didn't learn anything football wise from it really, to be honest with you, other than collaboration is key. Which I could have told you from Amy Adams Strunk's statement when she was talking about the initial general manager search after the season ended, but. I take him at his word that he's just gotten here and he's going to take some time to kind of dig into these things. I don't imagine there will be much more transparency beyond that on what his thought process with this team will be once he really has the opportunity to dive in. But I think, I don't want to call it disingenuous. I just think it's rather silly for him to not have an idea of what he thinks of Ryan Tannehill when he's asked at the opening press conference, when I'm sure the quarterback conversation had to play a role in what his vision for this franchise was when he was interviewing.
Man, well, Buck, we're on with Buck Rising from 104.5 The Zone, from the Buck Rising Show, and potentially then the Buck Rising Lucas Panzica show. That's in the works. Right? No, just kidding. But I guess if you were there at the press, and I know you were on air doing your show, what question would you have asked him that you, in the way you asked him, that you think you could have gotten, let's say, behind the curtain answer?
Oh, that's a good question. I really don't think that I thought they did a good job in kind of positioning these questions today, both on the offensive coordinator, trying to understand a little better on clarity as far as, hey, who has final say on these things? Because that's not something that he was willing to give up. I honestly think, Blaine, he went in there with talking points. I'm sure he and Vrabel were both well rehearsed by the time they put him in front of those microphones. I don't think there was anything that was going to get Ran Carthon to give up today. What the power dynamic essentially was going to be between him and Mike Vrabel, because both of them got up there and said the exact same thing. Well, we like to believe in collaboration and all these different things. Okay, but what's in your contract? I want to know what you have the ability to do and not do. And I just don't think there was any way they were going to tell us that today.
Well, the biggest thing we got out of the interview was that Vrabel had nothing to do with Rand. Vrabel was interviewed multiple candidates for the OC job. Who are these candidates?
Well, sure. Well, we know a few, right? We know.
No, we already heard of those. He said multiple. That's more than the 3. I assumed it sounded like it was more than 3.
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily a fair assumption to make. I don't know any more beyond
Well, two of them turned him
that it's
down, so
been-
really one.
Well, no, we don't know that Matt Nagy has turned him down. We just
Or he
don't know that
returned the
Nagy has officially accepted the interview request. Now,
Okay.
I think plenty of people have tried to do digging on that to little avail. We do know that Eric Bieniemy has told the Titans and anybody else inquiring about his services in a similar capacity as he holds with the Chiefs that he's focused on head coaching opportunities right now. But the idea that more candidates, Blaine, just became available as of yesterday. I think Mike Vrabel's got a lot of different options to choose from, and he can go in a variety of different directions. So I totally take him at his word that he's probably getting, these things are coming across his desk as soon as they're coming across our Twitter timelines and saying, I think, Greg Roman might be interesting for an offense that is very, very run-heavy and looks to kind of keep that similar identity, even if what Greg Roman has done in his last two stops with Colin Kaepernick and Lamar Jackson isn't necessarily what you would be running here with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. I think that there are some interesting candidates out there, though.
To your point, though, I think it's 9 OC jobs have been fired. I may be wrong on that. Lucas.
Well, if you include head coaching vacancies where you assume that the new head coach will hire their own offensive coordinator, I think, Buck, we're up to 13.
Oh, okay, with the head coach, yeah.
I have it at 12 at last count, including because I know Miami, a couple of people fired DCs yesterday, but including Carolina and Houston, I had it at 12.
Well, so let's go over it. You've got Baltimore, Tampa Bay, the LA Chargers, the Washington Commanders, the Tennessee Titans, the Los Angeles Rams, the New York Jets, the New England Patriots, the Indianapolis Colts, the Arizona Cardinals, the Denver Broncos, the Carolina Panthers, and the Houston Texans. All are currently without
13.
an offensive coordinator or a head coach.
Oh, I didn't.
That's 13 openings. It's almost half the league.
Well,
So with that being said, though, how does this affect in a good or negative light for interviewing for the Titans? Because now there's a lot of competition, but there's also a lot of openings that maybe you can pull from those coaches that maybe you're interested in.
Yeah, it makes it harder, right? I mean, there's no disputing that it makes it harder because now the coaches who would be interviewed have more options. Like with the GMs, it was Arizona or Tennessee. That was the list. And, you had multiple people competing for two jobs. And, Ian Cunningham going so far, according to reports, as turning the Arizona job down before it was offered to Monty Ossenfort. So it really looked like the Titans were the better situation of the two. Now, I don't think I could make the – I mean, hell, if outside of, like, ownership, and ownership matters in a big, big way, but, like, what is better about the Tennessee Titans job, Blaine, from an offensive standpoint, and Lucas, than, say, the Washington Commanders? I think everybody would look at the quarterback situation first and foremost in Washington and say, yeah, that's a mess. But everything else about that offense, I think falls in favor of Washington. Skill position players, their offensive line went healthy, which it wasn't this year. I think there's a lot of things to like about a lot of these different jobs, not to mention that people are going to be tripping and falling over themselves to work with Justin Herbert in the next iteration of his career. It's going to be a lot harder for Tennessee because I think Tennessee, of those lists, the only one that has more questions, the only few that have more questions, I think, are Carolina, Houston, and you could probably make the argument for somewhere like the Rams, but I mean, it's a pretty short list as far as the teams that are, or the openings that are not as good as Tennessee is right now. It's not an enviable situation to be in, and this is going to be the most scrutinized hire it's going to be the most scrutinized move they make all offseason, beyond quarterback, beyond what they do at left tackle. They have the GM. What people are going to be talking about, not just locally but nationally, the next phase of the Tennessee Titans and their offensive coordinator is going to be the biggest piece that is the discussion point right now. It's not an easy decision that Mike Vrabel has in front of him, and Ran Carthon was deferential towards Mike Vrabel today, and rightfully so. It's Mike's ultimate decision to make, but there's no way that Ran Carthon's not going to have some input on this decision.
Buck Rising with us on 104.5 The Zone. So at the start of this whole process, Buck, it's probably safe to say you felt like Tim Kelly was the favorite to be the offensive coordinator, given that Mike Vrabel had requested to interview him prior, that he is in the building. So the Titans have had an opportunity to stay in-house with the general manager position. They didn't. They still have an opportunity to stay in-house at offensive coordinator with Tim Kelly. We have yet to see his name come up in reports for any open offensive coordinator position across the league. At this stage, would you still consider Tim Kelly the favorite?
No, I don't. I think that honestly, I think the Nagy thing is the biggest domino to fall in all this. Like, at what point we find out whether he's accepted the interview request or already done the interview. It seems that they're really doing well at muddling the process of how people get this information, where you've got people reporting on second round of interviews for general managers, and those second round of interviews have already concluded, and they've already decided on that very day that who the GM that they're going to hire is. So I don't think that you can look at Tim Kelly as an internal candidate as a favorite at this point. I think that once you bring in a fresh set of eyes and a fresh set of perspective in Ran Carthon, it doesn't necessarily apply to the entire situation, but it certainly leaves that discussion more of an open-ended one as far as what they want to do moving forward. And I think Tim Kelly has a great chance to be the next Titans offensive coordinator. I think he would do well. He's got a very good background in the NFL. He has the respect of a lot of people who already work in that building. What his role ends up being, should they go in another direction, who's to say? I don't know if he stays on it as passing game coordinator at that point, but these are all just hypotheticals. I think he should be considered a very good candidate, but I don't know that you can look at anybody as a favorite right now.
What comes first, offensive coordinator or offensive line coach? Because clearly Vrabel, has traits in mind for both.
I wonder if they don't. So Mike Sullivan is already on the staff, the assistant offensive line coach, and I haven't heard much to the effect of kind of giving Mike a look as the guy in charge of the offensive line, but I would think that there would be consideration given to that. I know he's got a much better personal relationship with the players. That doesn't necessarily matter, as Blaine or any other player will be quick to tell you, I'm certain. But I know that he does have a good working relationship with Mike. I know that he does have good working relationship with the offensive linemen who are currently on the roster, but how many of those offensive linemen who are currently on the roster are still going to be on the roster when we finally see this thing rolled out in a more fuller version of itself? I do think OC comes first, though.
Well, with Buck Rising from the Buck Rising Show, I guess one thing that stood out in the interview there with Rand, but Vrabel said this, and it was kind of interesting. I want to see what your take was when he was talking about the O-line, almost like he threw Carter under the bus, like they weren't working in unison with
collaborating.
with the offensive coordinator. That was odd to me. Like, that's run protection as well as pass protection is all part of with the offensive coordinator to make sure you're working hand in hand.
It's such an interesting dynamic, Blaine, because I was doing some legwork on some of the OC candidates that had already been fired, and like Joe Lombardi was one that I spent a lot of time looking at yesterday. Mm-hmm. And the way that in LA, the biggest criticism of Joe Lombardi is that he just flat abandons the running game at times, because this year the Chargers staff for the first time was without their former offensive line coach and run game coordinator who joined Mike McDaniel's staff in Miami. So without that dedicated element of it, the run game had fall off. It put more on the offensive coordinator to kind of dictate that. And Joe Lombardi, ultimately, it ended up being his downfall, that he just at points would say, okay, I'm going to let the quarterback take these checkdowns and try to move the ball down the field instead of taking advantage of his talents. And ultimately, you would see that kind of sputter out, especially with the way that Staley has a predilection to go for it on fourth down, even if he was slightly more conservative this season than he was in his first season. So stuff like that is a kind of inner workings in these meeting rooms that we don't necessarily have access to. But, I mean, it can't – that kind of stuff doesn't necessarily surprise me. Yeah, people have difficulties in communication and in any kind of workplace, no matter what it is. So it shouldn't surprise to talk to like Kevin Byard after the 2020 season, right? And he's literally bringing up coordination as a problem for the defense. It's entirely imaginable that these are the same kind of working dynamics that an NFL team would have to deal with, because we don't see it That doesn't mean that there can't be dysfunction, even as we believe Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans to be a rather functional organization.
Well, to me, that's mixed messaging. And I think that's what behind the scenes and curtains, to me, at that point in time, and we were talking about 2020 when Byard was saying that's when the defense was horrible. I don't know what else he could have been saying other than we're hearing one thing from one coach, whether it's the DB coach or the safety coach or whoever, and then we're hearing something else from another position coach or even coordinator that are not in sync, and that's what's causing the hesitation and confusion just enough where we're making mistakes. And maybe then we're hiring more than just an O-line coach. Maybe we're hiring a not just passing game coordinator, we're hiring a run game coordinator with an offensive line coach. So do you see the staff getting bigger based off what you just said, or maybe that won't factor in depending on who you hire?
Well, I do think it matters depending on who you hire, first and foremost. But I also think that comes down to ownership. Like, there has to be a dedication of resources. You're talking about jobs, like salaries and stuff like that. And, you know, we've talked about this before with the Titans ownership group, not just as it relates to the coaching staff, but things like strength and conditioning, investment in recovery processes, and all these different things. Like, those are the kind of places that default to ownership. So when I read Amy Adams-Strunk's statement about the standard or meeting the standard that has been set when they fired John Robinson, I do think that Amy has to take her own words to heart in that, and they can have the hero's welcome that they did for Ran Carthon, and she's going to be celebrated for making a hire that is very, very highly regarded in the league and may well turn out to be very good. But and I don't know that these conversations has happened. I don't know if Mike Vrabel's thinking this way. I can't speak to that. But if Mike Vrabel goes to Amy Adams-Strunk and says, hey, we need a run game coordinator on top of a pass game coordinator, because last year's the first time under Mike that they've had a passing game coordinator designated, then the ownership has to make the decision as to whether they're going to fork out that much more money for another coaching salary for a very, very specific kind of thing. They've gotten by with it in years past, but, I mean, NFL teams it's starting to look like, and Lucas would have better perspective on this, but NFL teams are starting to look like college coaching staffs, where there's somebody for everything, every little element of what it is that these guys do, what these guys study on, and what these guys focus on in the meeting rooms. And so ultimately, I think that lands on the ownership group as to whether they want to make that kind of investment or not.
Well, speaking of that, maybe they need to do something more in depth with, let's say, the strength and conditioning, and I'm talking about referencing more injuries. The guys are bigger, stronger, faster from a decade ago, or even in my era. So why are they continually having these injuries? If you're bigger, stronger, faster, you would think that they would be more durable. But that's not been the case. Why do you think that has happened? And not just using the Titans. I'm just talking about across the league. That's actually been an issue.
Well, in fact, there was a really, really good article written by Lucas. What's the name of the Chargers beat writer?
I'd have to go back and look at it. Which article are you referencing?
And so he and Jordan Rodrigue collaborated on a really, really well-done article about player injuries on playing surfaces, given that that's something that the NFLPA is really, really hammering right now. You've seen players be more vocal on it, about it on social media, and kind of the decisions that NFL teams are making, as many of them, including the Titans, explore and are moving forward with new stadiums and things of the like, as to how much that is actually factoring in by percentage, running the numbers on that kind of stuff. Because what Mike Vrabel said is 90% of their injuries occurred in games this year. And after the fact, he cited things about, repeat offenders as far as like things like soft tissue. What are those guys doing differently from somebody like Kevin Byard or Derrick Henry, knock on wood, that is causing those two to not have to miss the kind of time if they experience something like that? What is their training regimen? How different is it from one guy to the next? Is it because they're going more specified in terms of their off-season work? Because we know that everybody, spreads out to the wind after the season ends and deals with their own people, their own trainers, and wherever they choose to spend their time. Repeat offenders, he called them, right? So all of those things, coupled with the idea that, in talking to a couple of different guys around the NFL who have spent time in Tennessee and are now in different organizations, The Titans don't necessarily have the same kind of resources that, not to use examples, but that another NFL franchise might, where there is a higher level of investment in strength, conditioning, training, and recovery, just as far as the number of people that they employ specifically to help the players get back on track and keep them on the field after they experience injury.
Good job. There you have it. Buck Rising from the Buck Rising Show.
Buck, have a good weekend. Enjoy the games, and I will see you on Tuesday.
Okay, can't wait. See you, boys.
Can't wait.
Pulled out the Bart Scott. Buck Rising with us on 104.5 The Zone. When we come back, we call our shot. NFL Divisional Round on Saturday and Sunday. Finish strong with us. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
Look, if you want to look and feel better about yourself and what you see in the mirror, 2023 can be the year that you get your hair back. Yep, you can do it. We Grow Hair is the only company in the state of Tennessee to have PAI. Yeah, you know them as PAIs, multi-unit hair grafting procedure. Look, it's a trademark procedure. It is the leading technology of technology in this world. More hair in just one procedure. You don't have to go back again and again. That saves you your time, and it saves you your money. And here's the deal. Nobody else has got it. No, this is the contender. Everybody else is a pretender. It's backed by the only company that I would trust and the only company that you should trust, and that's We Grow Hair. They've been in Nashville for 26 years, actually over that now, and they're waiting to take your phone call. And you just tell them I sent you, 615-376-6010. Why trust your looks to somebody else, to anybody else besides We Grow Hair? They've been trusted by hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, and they're right here in Nashville. So check out their website, wegrowhair.com. Get the best results. Get a free private consultation today. Permanent natural results from a company that you can trust. PAI Medical Group, wegrowhair.com. Call them today, 615-376-6010.
What a perfect song to send you into the weekend. I hope this song is up there for me, Blaine. I don't know how Mickey feels on his kind of quote unquote Mount Rushmore of Queen songs, but this has to be top 3 for me. What about you, Bert?
I don't know, man, because I think it depends on where your taste for Queen is at. If you listen to like all the like "We Will Rock You," "We Are the Champions," in high school, see those are overplayed for me.
Right.
Not denying that they're great songs. Bohemian Rhapsody would probably still peak the list.
Yeah, but I'm with you. It's like it's almost dangerous to say, but like a little bit. It's like, yeah, great song. It's a classic, but it's
kind of like AC/DC Back in Black.
Yeah,
not denying that that's a great song, but it's been so overused that it's just watered down to me that I would prefer to go to like Bicycle Race or Fat Bottom Girls or any way you want to go with Queen.
Radio Gaga. Yeah,
it's so good.
It's a very, very long list. NFC and AFC championship games will be decided this weekend as we call our shot, presented by Chattanooga Whiskey. Please drink responsibly. 615-737-1045. So let's go around the room. Blaine Bishop, what's your shot for the weekend as we get ready for the NFL's divisional round?
Oh, man, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the biggest upset that could possibly happen through all the games here. I'm going to go with, who does Dallas play?
Dallas heads to San Francisco.
Exactly. Dallas Cowboys take down the 49ers.
Oh, you got the boys moving on?
Upset. Hopefully Dak Prescott will not throw an interception. That is my shot. I do have a long-range shot, too. This is like down the road, and I'm hoping it happens, but it probably won't because it's a divisional game. I want the Tennessee Titans to play in London. Yours truly, I think that's why it hasn't been announced. Those Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, you think they would do it? You think they would do a divisional matchup?
No, they won't, but that's what I want.
Well, that would be great, but they probably wouldn't do it because of the home and home, right?
Yeah, that's exactly why they won't do it. But yeah, I would want that to happen. Something of significance over there in London, because then that would force me to kind of start my plan and my trip.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you should start doing that regardless.
I won't be going. They won't ask me. I'll be sitting here with you. You going this year? Did you go to London 4 years ago?
I did not go to London 4 years ago. So that was the 2018 season. Yeah, I was not working at 104.5 The Zone yet.
Oh, what? You were in college?
I was fresh out of college.
Oh,
the 2018 season. Okay. Yeah, it was a spring chicken.
Yeah, Robert said he graduated, but he did not.
No one ever checks, Blaine. No one ever looks that stuff up. Kids, you don't have to get a college education. Just lie on your resume. Just say you got one. They never check.
They don't. They truly don't.
They're not going to call my school and be like, "Did he graduate?" I said, "I graduated with honors." Like, sorry, Paul, I did not. I lied.
Oh man.
Life advice from Robert Wall.
You think people would believe that I have a law degree? Can I go to that extreme?
Sure. Why not? As long as you're not practicing. If you're like, I got a law degree, I'm not going to look it up.
Let's test out the limits. Bert, what's your shot?
I don't think they would.
My shot. Okay. And on Buck's show, we made a bet that was going to be correlating with whether Ran Carthon said collaboration, whatever the word was.
Cooperation.
I want it. If we lost that bet, I would have to eat an onion. I'm doubling down right now because we won. I want to eat that onion. The Bengals will not make it out of the divisional round for the weekend. If they do, I will eat an onion here on Tuesday.
But if you want to eat an onion so bad, you can eat the onion.
No, it's okay.
Stop
it's okay. I need the stipulations. The Bengals will not make it past the Bills. DeMar Hamlin's going to be swinging that flag. He's going to lead them out of the tunnel, and the energy's going to be high. They're not going to be able to take it. Their left tackle, right guard are down. Bengals fall to the Bills.
All right, so Blaine's going boys. Bert's going Bills. No, Bengals. I'm sorry. You said you're going. No,
Bengals.
Yeah, you got it right the first time.
Yeah, you're going Bengals.
Bills.
We're going Bills.
Yeah, he said the Bengals will not
That's what
make
I
it.
said. It's too many B's.
I'm about to eat an onion.
Bumblebee.
Blaine, just eat the onion. It's Blaine and the boys. Bert and the Bengals. I'm going to go Bert and
The Bills.
We got to get out of here. I'm going with Brock. We're keeping it with the B's.
Oh,
Brock Purdy.
Okay.
Brock Purdy is already. Let me ask you, how many rookie quarterbacks in NFL history do you think have reached a conference championship game?
Oh, I have no
idea.
idea.
If you just off the top of your head. Rookie,
I don't know, 3.
No, it's never happened. They've never gotten to the Super Bowl. No rookies ever reached the Super Bowl. You said 3? You're close. It's 4.
Oh.
So it's
dang it.
Sean King in 99 with the Bucks.
Sean King with the Bucks.
Big Ben in 2004. Joe Flacco in 2008 after they beat the Titans here in Nashville in the divisional round. And Mark Sanchez in 2009.
With
the only 4 rookies in NFL history to reach a conference championship game. I'm going to say Brock Purdy becomes rookie number 5 to hit that mark, and he does not throw an interception as the 49ers defeat the Dallas Cowboys at home and move on to the NFC title game, where they could potentially host if the Giants beat the Eagles, but would have to travel to Philly if the Eagles beat the Giants.
So you think the Giants can beat the Eagles?
I think they can. Yeah. And what happened? What do we know about Jalen Hurts and when he takes that first hit on that shoulder? I have no idea how he's going to react. And I don't know. I like the way the Giants are playing right now. I would like to see.
Do you know how bad the Vikings defense is?
It's really bad. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But Brock Purdy, in his 7 starts, has 13 touchdowns to 3 interceptions.
Man, that's awesome.
Dude is playing lights out right now.
Is.
And I don't care that he's well coached. I don't care that he's in a great system. He's just making good decisions with the football. He's making off-schedule plays with his legs. I think Brock Purdy leads the Niners, and the 49ers move on to the NFC Championship game.
That's a good one. I'm a fan of his, but he's going down to the boys.
Enjoy the games.